I never imagined that buying my dream home would land me in a war with a neighborhood tyrant who parked 80,000 trucks in my garage without my permission, especially since I wasn't even part of the HOA. My name's Ethan Caldwell, and if you've ever dealt with a neighbor who thought they owned the block, drop a comment with where you're from. This story's wild, and it's about to get crazier. After years of pinching pennies in tiny apartments with landlords who acted like fixing a leaky faucet was a personal favor, I finally did it. I bought a cozy 3-bedroom Craftsman just outside the iron grip of Crestwood Estates, a neighborhood with an HOA rulebook thicker than a dictionary. The seller showed me Maps Pro, VYing my property was free from their nonsense-approved paint colors or mailbox designs for me. For 2 months, it was bliss. I planted heirloom tomatoes, painted my door a bold red that would have sent HOA folks into a frenzy, and settled into working from home. Then came the neighborhood barbecue, a so-called truce between Crestwood's HOA drones and us edge dwellers. That's where I met Deborah Langley, HOA president for over a decade, and a realtor whose sharp blazer screamed control freak louder than the whistle she used to herd people. She cornered me by the coleslaw, martini in hand, eyeing my house like it was her next conquest. 3 weeks later, I came back from grocery shopping to find my garage door wide open and 2 monstrous Ford Raptors parked inside, my little Toyota Corolla banished to the driveway like a stray dog. I stood there, bags slipping from my arms, wondering if I'd stumbled into some bizarro world where people stashed luxury trucks in strangers' garages. My security app showed Deborah herself, cool as you please, using a remote to open my garage, and while VYing the trucks and like she was directing a MOVY. My blood boiled. I marched to the Crestwood clubhouse, where my neighbor, Mike, said Deborah held court daily. She was behind a desk that screamed overcompensating, sorting violation notices with her assistant, Karen, whose face looked like it hadn't cracked a smile since the 90s. "Why are you breaking into my garage?" I snapped. Deborah barely looked up, like I was whining about a drizzle. "Mr. Caldwell, we're hosting the Crestwood Garden Tour. Those trucks belong to regional HOA VIPs. They're unsightly on our streets, so we've stored them in non-feature properties. You should be proud to help." When I reminded her I wasn't in her HOA, she waved a manicured hand. "That's being corrected. You'll see." She refused to give me the owner's contacts, handed me a Crestwood Parking Sare VYCS card, and shooed me out, tossing in a jab about my hedges needing a trim. I called the cops the next morning. Officer Daniels showed up, looking like he'd heard it all. "Another Crestwood mess?" he sighed, jotting notes. After watching the footage, he grimaced. "It's a gray area. She's claiming HOA authority. Without clear criminal intent, it's CIVYL. Get a lawyer and check your property lines with the city." Frustrated, I tried towing companies. Everyone shut me down, saying Deborah had warned them about a crazy homeowner trying to steal HOA-managed vehicles. One guy even asked if I'd taken my meds. I was Lee VYD, but stuck, so I tracked the truck owners myself. Their plate's Big Dog 1, and TRKS made it easy. A call to the town's fancy hotel confirmed they were tour guests. We paid $75 each for secure HOA parking. One owner, Mr. Larson, told me, mortified. "We had no clue she used your garage. They pulled their trucks out by noon, Leah VYing my garage empty, but VYOLAT." That afternoon, a Crestwood welcome packet arrived in my mailbox. 120 pages of rules, a DULA 300 dues bill, and a map falsely showing my house in their territory. Something was rotten. Mike, my neighbor, filled me in over a beer. "Deborah's been bullying border properties for years. Your place and a few others are in limbo, not legally in the HOA, but she acts like they are." He said the pre-VYS owners of my house sold to escape her harassment fake fines. Yin and VY Ted landscapers, even lien threats. Her husband, Steven, a hotshot lawyer, backed her up, and half the neighborhood either feared her or bought her line about boosting property values. Things got weirder. Karen started photographing my house numbers and slapping violation notices on my door, DULA 75 fines for improper font. I found out Deborah was running for city council, using photos of my house on her website as proof of her community standards. Then I overheard her giving a tour to buyers, pointing at my place and calling it a successfully integrated Crestwood property. It hit me. This wasn't just control. It was a scam. Her real estate listings hyped exclusive HOA properties, including border homes like mine, to jack up prices and her commissions. I upgraded my security cameras, motion sensors, a hack-proof garage opener. The tech installing it smirked. You're not the first Crestwood border case we've done. That Deborah keeps us busy. Armed with property records and footage, I crashed one of her open houses. She was charming buyers in a staged kitchen when I called her out. Her smile stayed, but her eyes turned to ice. "Mr. Caldwell, this isn't the time," she said loudly, steering me to an office. Alone, her mask dropped. "You don't get how this works. Uniformity raises values, cuts crime. Your little boundary issue is just paperwork. Fight this, and you'll look like the bad guy." When I mentioned the police, she called Officer Daniels by his first name, no less, and smirked after hanging up. "Tom says the civil matter. Don't waste our time." A new ally changed everything. Lisa Harper, a real estate lawyer who'd moved into Crestwood, overheard us and introduced herself. Deborah's been pulling this boundary fraud for years. Her proposal to annex border properties was never approved, but she exploits the ambiguity. I posted about my ordeal in the neighborhood's online group. Some sympathized, sharing their own Deborah nightmares. Others defended her, saying my defiance tanked their property values. Deborah herself commented, hinting my home's value would plummet if I didn't comply. Then Lisa found internal HOA emails from a road board member. They were damning. Deborah admitting border properties weren't legally hers, but outlining psychological pressure to force compliance. She called my resistance troublesome and pushed for aggressive measures. The worst came when I found landscapers ripping out my fruit tree's apple, pear, plum saplings I'd nurtured. "HOA orders," the foreman said, showing Deborah's signature. "Pests and property value issues." I pointed to my no HOA signs, and he looked uneasy, calling his boss. Deborah rolled up in a Range Rover, sunglasses perched like a crown. "These trees violate our rules, Mr. Caldwell. They're a mess." I stood between her crew and my trees, phone recording, and called it trespassing. Her cool cracked. "You're making a mistake. This community handles problem residents." She left after a standoff, but 2 trees were gone, their roots torn up. I felt gutted, like she'd stolen more than plants. Lisa and I built a plan. We launched a website, Crestwood Overreach, with footage, emails, and neighbor stories. It spread fast, drawing tales from HOA members tired of Deborah's iron fist. A former treasurer, Margaret, met us secretly and spilled. The garden tour, Crestwood's big fundraiser, was a cash cow, $15,000, $20,000 yearly. Deborah funneled parking fees, $75 per truck, to a shell company, Community Management Sayer VYCS, tied to Stevens' law firm. Over 2 years, it pocketed $30,000 from parking and $80,000 in vague consulting fees. Worse, my cameras caught Deborah stealing electricity from the clubhouse for her holiday lights and greenhouse, sticking the HOA with the bill. I confronted Stephen at their house while Deborah was at a conference. He looked worn out. She thinks these properties were always meant to be Crestwoods. It started as idealism, then control, then money. Their real estate business had tanked, and the HOA became their piggy bank. Meanwhile, Lisa rallied border homeowners, forming a coalition. A sympathetic board member called an emergency HOA meeting to challenge Deborah's leadership. The night before, someone spray-painted "Value Killer" on my garage. I scrubbed it off. Heart racing, this was Deborah's desperate last stand. The clubhouse was packed for the meeting, with residents spilling outside. A city councilwoman, Ms. Rivera, showed up, tipped off by complaints. I presented my case. Footage of Deborah's trespass, emails pro-vying her fraud, bank records tracing her shell company. As I spoke, Mike's live camera feed lit up the screen. Deborah, caught red-handed, trying to yank down his camera to hide her power theft. The room gasped. Deborah tried to shut it down, screaming about personal vendettas, but the crowd shouted her down. Lisa took the floor, announcing lawsuits against Deborah for fraud and harassment, plus complaints to the real estate board and DA. Then Stephen stood, ignoring Deborah's protests. This became fraud. I enabled it, and I was wrong. Deborah's face twisted with rage. The board voted her out, ordered an audit, and reset the boundaries, freeing my property. Ms. Rivera promised the city re-VYEW and forwarded EVY Denke for investigation. Deborah and Stephen fled town, their house sold as probes closed in. The audit exposed more theft, forcing them to repay the HOA. My trees thrived, and I chose to feature them in the next garden tour. A middle finger to Deborah's rules. Mike became HOA president, vowing transparency. We formed a neighborhood association, turning unused land into a community garden and hosting open events. The truck owners sent apology gift baskets, and Lisa secured me a settlement for the harassment. 6 months later, I hosted a barbecue in my yard. Jessica's wildflowers, Margaret's roses, and my fruit trees stood proud, no longer non-compliant. Officer Daniels, off-duty, grilled with Mike, joking about, "Now, I want to hear from you. Was I right to fight Deborah? Or should I play nice to keep the peace? Have you faced a bully like her? And how far would you go to protect your home?" Drop a comment, hit like if this got your blood pumping, and subscribe for more stories that'll make you question who really runs your neighborhood.